You see, one of the best things about life, the hard way, unfortunately, is this energy follows attention. Whatever you focus on, you're feeding. Whatever you feed grows. And for so many, very reason they feel empty, drained, and invisible. They've been feeding the wrong thing, always giving their attention, energy, and emotions to someone else's validation. They're chasing love, chasing validation, chasing acknowledgement, hoping that if they give just a little bit more, they'll finally be enough for that person. But this is the thing. When you keep chasing, you move what you want further away. Think about it. When you concentrate all your energy on someone, what they think, what they feel, how they react, you turn them into the center of your emotional world. Your happiness goes up and down depending on how they react. You text, and if they text you back quickly, great, you feel fantastic. If they don't, your mood plummets. That's not love, that's reliance. Reliance kills attraction quicker than anything. Individuals can feel when your energy is pursuing them. It is weighty, clingy, desperate. But when you no longer care so much, when you retract that energy to yourself, something happens that is completely magical. You begin to radiate differently. You become lighter, more at peace, more grounded. And suddenly they see it. Why? Because attention is gravity. It attracts things towards you. When your energy is everywhere but in its proper place, scattered on someone else's behavior, you lose your own gravitational pull. When you take back that energy, when you concentrate it on your development, your serenity, your calling, you become a force once more. That's when people begin leaning in, when they begin to wonder what happened, why you're so different, so self-assured, so untroubled. It's not because you're playing a game. It's because you finally stopped giving your power away. See, all of us were taught that caring more equals loving more, but that's not how it is. Real love, real confidence has nothing to do with obsession. It has everything to do with being present. When you cease to overcare, you don't cease to love. You simply cease to pour your energy into things you can't manipulate. You start paying attention to what you can offer rather than what you're trying to receive. And when that occurs, you are magnetic. Picture someone in the center of a storm. The world around them is chaotic, people running around, emotions careening. And yet this individual is not. They are calm, collected, focused. People begin to notice that calm energy. That's what the power of focus is. That's the energy that declares, I'm centered. I know who I am. When you are living from that position, people pick up on it. They can't even comprehend it, but they're attracted to it. Because deep down, everybody desires the same peace. When you no longer care, you no longer chase. And when you no longer chase, the game changes. One who previously assumed your existence starts to miss you. They question. They realize your value. And it's not because you played games. It's because you began to respect yourself. You cease to try to fill another person's cup at the expense of your own dwindling water. This is the secret. The universe does not compensate desperation. It compensates direction. When you turn your focus towards your own development, your well-being, your passion, your serenity, you send a message. You tell yourself, my energy is valuable. My attention is worth something. I no longer waste it where it's not valued. That level of clarity changes everything. So when you stop caring, it's not apathy, it's alignment. You're not shutting your heart, you're taking it back. You're learning to put your energy where it multiplies, not where it depletes. And when you do, you'll find something amazing. The same folks who would have ignored you before will begin to perceive you in a different light. Not because they did, but because your energy did. And where your energy goes from there, that's where your life will expand. You see, detachment isn't not feeling. It's not being like, oh, don't care. It's not surrounding yourself with a wall around your heart. It's about power, real, grounded, unshakable power. Detachment is when you finally stop letting external things run your internal world. Stop reacting to every emotion, every silence, every text that doesn't arrive. It's the point where you reclaim your energy and declare, I choose how I feel. When you're emotionally invested in an outcome, be it a relationship, a person, or even a goal, your peace is no longer solid. You're always on the verge of something, waiting for something external to make you feel good internally. Yet the reality is, if your happiness is contingent on what someone does or does not do, you're giving them the keys to your emotional freedom. Detachment is when you reclaim those keys. Suppose you have a rope in your hand and the other person is repeatedly tugging it, testing how far you will go, how far you will push. The tighter you hold, more control they have over you. But the instant you relax your grip, the instant you release, tension is gone. That's what letting go feels like. You no longer struggle. You no longer push. You stop chasing outcomes that were never in your control to begin with. And something interesting happens when you do that. People sense it. When you're detached, your energy changes. You're no longer broadcasting neediness. You're broadcasting certainty. You're no longer begging for connection. You're inviting it. You become someone who doesn't need validation to feel whole. And that's the most attractive energy there is. People are drawn to those who seem free because freedom is rare. Everyone's busy clinging. Few have the strength to let go. You see, detachment doesn't mean that you are no longer caring about people. It means that you are no longer clinging to people. You can love someone with great passion and yet be independent. You can give without expecting. You can show up without losing yourself. That's what makes your love even more powerful. It's no longer about fear or control. It's about choice. When you're disengaged, rejection doesn't shatter you. It teaches you. Agitate you, they redirect you. And silence doesn't intimidate you, it grounds you. You begin to realize everything that's destined for you will come together organically without coercion. Correct people, the correct opportunities, the correct timing. They flow toward peaceful energy, not pandemonium. Remember the last time you were desperate for something? A message, a call, sign that someone cared. Feel the weight of that. Now consider when you let go, when you ceased the monitoring, when you said, you know what, I'll be okay either way. That's when things changed, right? Because detachment is a statement of self-trust. It's no matter what happens, I've got me. Tony Robbins has this to say, quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. Detachment puts you in charge of those emotions. You're no longer a victim of every mood, every individual, every unpredictable event. You become centered. From this center, you can love better, lead better, live better. So don't get detachment and indifference confused. You're not giving up. You're releasing the illusion of control. You're letting life happen and remain rooted in your own value. Because when you release your grip so tightly, it tends to deliver to you precisely what you were grasping after. Only now it comes easily to you. There's one fundamental truth that underlies all human relationships, all business transactions, all emotional attachments. People appreciate what they cannot have easily. It's not hard to play. It's being someone who respects themselves enough not to give it all away so cheaply. When your time, your attention, your energy, even your love is seen as something valuable, other people start to see it that way too. Because see, the issue that most people struggle with isn't that they're not worthy of love and respect, that they provide their value for free without even knowing it. They overgive, over-explain, over-try. They say yes when they mean no. They pursue people who barely appear for them, believing that the more effort they put in, the more the other person will realize their value. But that isn't how it works. The more you attempt to demonstrate your value, you show others that you don't trust it yourself. When you step back, when you create space, people start noticing what's missing. That silence becomes powerful. That distance becomes intriguing. Suddenly, the same person who took your presence for granted starts wondering where you went. They start feeling the weight of your absence. And it's not because you're manipulating them. It's because you've stopped feeding the dynamic that kept them comfortable. Tony Robbins refers a lot to the state you take to every situation, your energy, your confidence, your certainty. When you understand your value, that energy is heard above any words could ever be heard. You move differently, you speak differently. Yourself like a person who doesn't need to be selected because you already selected yourself. That's what people respect. That's what causes them to listen. Consider the individuals whom you value most: leaders, innovators, role models, even loved ones who motivate you. They don't pursue validation, they emanate it. They possess standards. They don't agree to everything because they know that their yes carries weight, and that's what makes their presence worth it. Your life also operates on the same premise. When you no longer remain perpetually available, emotionally, mentally, even digitally, your value increases automatically because only scarcity makes things valuable and only boundaries elicit respect. Let's get real. We're living in a world of instant access. Anyone can access anyone, and because it's so easy, people lose the power of space. But space is holy. When you cease to respond immediately, when you cease to appear every time someone clicks their fingers, you teach them something valuable, that your attention is not cheap. It's earned. The people who really care about you will lift themselves up to meet your expectation. It's not ego, it's energy. When you continue to pour yourself into someone who doesn't give anything in return, you're showing them that your energy is free. But when you begin to say, I deserve effort for effort, you change the whole dynamic. People can sense when you've increased your standards. They can feel when you're no longer needing approval. And that's when everything begins to shift. Here's the paradox. When you release the chasing, you begin to attract, because now your energy exclaims, I'm enough as I am. You've moved inward, and that radiance is what attracts people to you. They begin to respect your boundaries, cherish your words, and honor your time, not because you commanded it, because you exemplified it. So if you feel like someone can't see your worth, don't try harder. Move back. Let your silence do the talking. Let your absence speak. When you cease asking to be valued, you leave room for people who naturally see your value to move in. And when they do, you'll discover something profound. You never had to pursue respect. You simply had to quit offering discounts on your worth. There is a lovely instant in life when everything starts to shift, the instant you move from needing to choosing. It's not so apparent at first, but it's strong beyond degree. When you're coming from need, your choices are based on fear. Fear of losing someone, fear of missing out, fear of being alone, fear of not being sufficient. But when you move into choice, everything is different. Suing people or results, you're going with what feels right, what feels true, what feels worthy. Most of us spend years stuck in the energy of need. We tell ourselves things like, I need him to notice me, or I need her to love me, or I need this to happen. But that energy is thick, it's desperate, it drives what you desire further away because it says to the world, already possess what it will take for me to be happy. When you're in a position of need, you're attempting to fill an emptiness from the outside in, but nothing on the outside, no love, no success, approval can ever fill something on the inside. When you step into choice, you take back your power. You begin to say, do I really want this? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this good for my peace, growth, my soul? And if the answer is no, you walk away, not in bitterness, but in clarity. That's the vibration of a person who knows their worth. Picture two individuals at a fork in the road. Is pleading with the other to remain, fearful of what might occur if they don't. The other is strong and says, if it's meant to be, it will remain, and if it's not, believe in what's next. The first is living in want, the second is living in choice. And the universe always recompenses the second one, because that is the frequency of self-trust. Tony Robbins instructs that your choices define your destiny. But here's the catch. Your choices become effective only when made from strength, not from scarcity. When you're in need, you compromise. Compromise your limits. You accept half effort because you fear losing even that. But when you decide, you insist on alignment. You decide on peace, not chaos. You decide on self-respect, not fleeting attention. Decide on growth, not comfort. And each time you do, you level up. As soon as you stop needing someone to validate you, you become dangerous, in the best sense, because now your value is internal. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg for attention, you command it. You don't try to convince anyone of your worth because you live it. And that transition changes everything. In relationships, business, in life. Here's the truth. When you need, you give away your freedom. You become reactive, waiting for others to make choices for you. But when you choose, you reclaim that freedom with purpose. You cease to wonder, will they accept me? And begin to wonder, do I accept who I am when I'm with them? You cease to wonder, will this chance arrive? And begin to declare, make my own. That's when the game shifts. The world reacts differently to those who function from choice. You enter a room in a different way. You communicate differently. You no longer oscillate at the frequency of fear. You oscillate at the frequency of certainty. And certainty is attractive. People feel it. They don't know what shifted. All of a sudden, they can no longer dismiss you. So when you cease to need and begin to choose, you cease begging life to be good to you. And you begin to decide that it will be. You cease to pursue love and begin to choose peace. You cease waiting for opportunity and begin to forge your own destiny. That's where true power starts, not in acquiring what you wanted, in knowing you never required it in the first place. Confidence. It has nothing to do with being boisterous, gouty, or the focal point of the space. The quiet stuff is real confidence. The calm stuff, still presence in the room that doesn't have to prove a thing. You sense it before somebody says a word. It's the way someone walks, the way they hold eye contact. They move through life knowing exactly who they are. No explanations, no apologies. That's the kind of confidence that speaks louder than words. You see, confidence is what most people believe you're born with. You're not. Confidence is something you construct through self-respect, through boundaries, through consistently showing up for yourself, even when nobody's applauding. Confidence builds each time you make a promise to yourself and keep it. Each time you select self-worth over self-doubt. Each time you choose your peace over somebody else's approval. When you no longer try to prove yourself worthy to the world, that's when you begin to become it. You no longer need to say, look at me, I'm good enough. And instead your vibration says, I know I'm enough. You see it or not. That's power. Because people can feel authenticity. They can spot when your confidence is about truth, not ego, not arrogance, but a quiet knowing that you're grounded in who you are. Tony Robbins is always referring to state. Your emotional state decides whether you're present or not. You may be able to go into a room uncertain, and even if you use all the correct words, people sense that uncertainty. But when you enter owning your space, when your shoulders are rolled back, your energy is up, and your attention is inward, you don't say much. Your presence speaks for itself. Here's the thing, confidence isn't never doubting. It's trusting even when you do doubt. It's saying, I may not know the answers, but I'll figure it out. That self-trust is what helps you build resilience. It makes you unstoppable because confidence isn't in certainty, it's in courage. The courage to show up, to speak up, to take risks, to fail and get back up again. When you carry that energy, people respond differently to you. They listen more closely, respect you more naturally, and value your presence without you having to demand it. Because you're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply expressing who you are. And that authenticity is magnetic. Consider the individuals who draw attention without even making an effort. The individuals who enter a room and immediately change the vibe. It's not that they're the loudest or the prettiest. They believe in themselves. Their vibe exclaims, I belong here. And when you feel like you belong, the world feels that way too. Here's the trick. People often get confidence and arrogance mixed up. Arrogance goes, I'm superior to you. Confidence goes, I'm okay and so are you. One disqualifies, the other empowers. Confidence raises others up because it's not threatened by someone else shining bright. When you have a good sense of who you are, you can praise others without feeling smaller. You can love without fear. You can lead without controlling. Confidence also alters the way you cope with loss, rejection, or failure. Rather than shattering you, it makes you better. You don't fall apart when things do not go as planned because your value wasn't on the line. You can look at failure and say, okay, lesson learned, let's move on. That's strength. That's grace. So when you cease to try to prove yourself and begin being yourself, energy changes. You no longer pursue, you attract. You no longer fight, you no longer question, you decide. Because confidence is not about having it all together. It's about being sure that when things fall apart, you'll still be all right. And when you get there, when your calm is louder than your words, your presence commands respect without requesting it. That's when you've fully entered your power. That's when the world starts to respond to you in different ways because you've finally understood. You don't have to say everything when your energy already says it all. Rejection, even saying the word, makes most people cringe, and it hurts. It triggers self-doubt, insecurity, even shame. Here's what very few people realize: rejection is never really about you. It's about alignment. It's about redirection. It's life's way of saying, not this way. Something better planned for you. When someone says no to you, whether it's a friend, a partner, a job, or a chance, your immediate thought will be to wonder about yourself. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I good enough? But that way of thinking leaves you mired in pain. Tony Robbins is famous for saying, life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. And when you begin to view rejection that way, things shifts. Remember a time when things didn't turn out for you. Perhaps you didn't receive the job or the one you loved left. It stung, right? Yet today, reflecting on that moment, can you imagine how it made you, how it steered you towards something greater, an alternate route, a tougher version of you, a lesson you could not have had any other way? Rejection is usually just heavenly course correction. When you're too invested in one specific way, you're closing off possibilities of life. You're telling the world, it must happen this way. It's wrong. But life is much bigger, much smarter than that. Sometimes the door that closes is the thing that opens you up to not settling. Sometimes the person who left opened up space for someone who is really meant for you. Sometimes letting go of what you wanted shows you what you really need. The fact is, rejection hurts because it attacks our ego. The ego whispers to us, if they don't want me, I must not be worthy. But your worth is not erased just because someone wasn't able to see it. Not everybody is supposed to grasp your worth, and that is all right. Cannot see your light does not make your light any lesser. It simply means they are not your audience. When you internalize rejection, you contract. But when you get it, you expand. You begin to see that rejection is information, not judgment. It's feedback, not failure. It's how life narrows your focus. You can turn that hurt into a purpose. You can turn that no and use it as a springboard to your next yes. Think about all the great success stories you've ever heard. Each and every one of them is founded on rejection. Historic people didn't become historic because everything went right. They became historic because rejection didn't win. It pushed them. It made them stronger. It schooled them in perseverance. The same is applicable to you. Every time someone walks away, every time a door closes, every time life says no, it's nudging you toward an enormous yes. Once you stop being afraid of rejection, you live freely. You take risks once more. You tell your truth. You pursue what you desire without being crippled by the idea of falling short. Because you now know that rejection doesn't steal from you. It only shows you where you were never supposed to be. Tony Robbins often says, if you're not getting rejected, you're not trying enough. And he's right. Rejection is a sign that you're putting yourself out there, that you're stretching, growing, expanding beyond your comfort zone. It means you're alive. You're in the arena. So the next time someone says no, be grateful. The next time life shuts one door, don't pound on it. Look around for the one that's opening, because every rejection holds a message. This wasn't your ending, it was your redirection. And then once you really get that, you stop taking things personally. You stop pursuing what left. You stop pleading for what's not yours. You begin to trust the process. You begin to trust yourself. Because on the inside, what's meant for you will never turn you down. It will acknowledge you, resonate with you, remain effortlessly, emotional control. That's true power, not physical strength, not how loudly you can talk, how quickly you can respond, but how serene you can remain when everything else is attempting to tear you in two. The one who can control their emotions controls their life. Let's face it, emotions dictate everything. Every choice, every relationship, every moment of happiness or hurt is colored by the emotions you elect to live in. Here's the thing. Most don't get to pick their emotions. They respond to them. They let anger reign when someone disrespects them. They let sadness overtake them when someone departs. They let fear hold them back when opportunity calls. They say, that's just how I feel. I can't help it. But you can. You absolutely can. Because emotions don't govern you. You govern them if you decide to. Tony Robbins puts it best, the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. So if you invest most of your life in anger, bitterness, worry, and hurt, that's the way you will perceive the world. You'll see problems everywhere, but if you discipline yourself to remain centered, to breathe first before you respond, to hold back before you react, you regain your power. Because power is not in reaction, restraint. Consider this. The second you allow someone to anger you, you give them power. The second you allow someone's judgment to steal your peace, you give them power over your happiness. Emotional control is not about denying how you feel. It's about taking it. It's about saying, yes, I feel this emotion. I decide what it does to me. You don't have to explode every time you're hurt. You don't have to beg every time you feel rejected. You don't have to spiral every time things go wrong. Because when you're grounded, nothing and no one can shake you for long. Picture yourself in the center of a storm. All around you is chaos, people screaming, circumstances crumbling, feelings flying every which way. But you remain immobile, tranquil, conscious, focused. That's what it means to be in control of your emotions. Imply you don't sense the storm. It implies the storm no longer dictates who you are. There is strength in being unbothered, not cold, not indifferent, but centered. Because when you can remain calm amidst chaos, folks begin to pay attention. They begin to trust you. They feel your stability. You become the anchor amidst waves of chaos. That's what leadership is founded upon. That's what respect is cultivated from. Here's what most don't know. Emotional control doesn't develop in calm moments. It develops in discomfort. Each time you fight the urge to react, each time you opt for patience instead of fury, silence instead of argument, compassion over ego, you build your emotional muscle. And just like any muscle, it grows stronger with use. The reality is, the world will continually challenge you. People will let you down. Things will collapse. It won't go as you envisioned. But none of that makes your reaction does. You can't regulate everything that goes down, but you can regulate how you frame it, how you bear it, and how long you allow it to reside within you. There is a strength in being serene when others want you to shatter. It mystifies them. It demands respect. It proclaims, I have moved beyond chaos in order to be alive. That is growth. That is mastery. So when you feel triggered, pause. When someone disrespects you, breathe. When life hits you hard, don't ask, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Because every emotion, even the painful ones, something to teach you. If you don't let it rule you, and when you get to that place, when you quit reacting to every storm and begin responding with wisdom, you'll see something amazing. Peace is your new normal. Chaos will come, of course, but it won't reside there any longer because you've discovered the secret. Emotional control isn't about not taking the storm. It's not about becoming the peacefulness within it. There is a moment of reckoning in each person's life. The moment when you no longer try to fit into something and instead you try to become someone. Most people spend their whole lives looking for acceptance, attempting to fit in, attempting to be liked, attempting to be selected. But belonging can be just another way of seeking approval. You're conforming to someone else's standards, even if it doesn't feel like you. And the more you pursue belonging, the more you move away from who you really are. You see, belonging is external. Requires that other person to say, yes, you belong here. You're acceptable. But becoming, that's inside of you. That's you stating, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is who I'm becoming, whether you get it or not. That's the transition from depending on others for approval to claiming your identity. And once that transition takes place, you become unstoppable. Consider this. How many times have you turned down your light in order to make others comfortable? How many times have you silenced your truth because you did not want to be judged, misunderstood, or excluded? We've all done it. But every time you conceal who you are to accommodate someone else, you lose a part of yourself. That's not connection. That's compromise. Tony Robbins himself always states, if you want your life to change, you have to raise your standards. And that includes the standard of how you perceive yourself. In the pursuit of spaces that make you have to shrink, asking to belong in rooms where you're meant to create your own. When you work on becoming, you see that you were never supposed to fit in. You were meant to stand out. Becoming takes time. It's not perfect. It's progress. It's learning, growing, failing, and rising. It's about questioning yourself. Am I becoming the person I promised myself I'd be? Not, do they like me? Or do they like me? Because the truth is, people who belong in your life will see your growth. They will admire your evolution. They wouldn't require you to be smaller for them to be big. When you shift your attention to becoming, all of it shifts. You cease pursuing people who don't prize you. You cease holding on to places where you're accepted rather than adored. You cease living out of fear and begin living out of purpose. And ironically, when the right people enter in, people who don't require you to alter in order to fit into their narrative because they're too busy creating their own. The energy of becoming is magnetic. When you're really growing, when you're learning, getting better, healing, folks can sense it. You don't even have to say it out loud. Your energy tells all. You walk differently. You speak differently. you begin to radiate from the inside out because your attention isn't on who accepts you, but on who you're becoming in the process. And here's the thing, belonging will always be a consequence of becoming. When you are who you truly are, the people, the opportunities, and the communities that align with that will find you. You won't have to go chase them. They'll come to you organically because authenticity has mass. It attracts what is yours and deflects what is not. So end the questioning, where do I belong? And begin to ask, who am I becoming? Stop shrinking for acceptance and start growing for purpose. You don't have to belong to everybody. You only have to belong to you. That's where true peace starts. Because when you finally concentrate on becoming rather than belonging, you cease to earn love and begin to embody it. You cease waiting to be noticed and begin radiating on your own. That's when life and the people around you starts to notice you for who you really are. Silence. It is one of the strongest languages in the world. You don't have to yell, argue, justify yourself when your energy already speaks louder. In an era addicted to noise, perpetual opinions, ceaseless chatter, illogical attempts to be heard, silence stands out louder than anything else. Because silence doesn't plead to be understood, it insists to be respected. Strength in being able to remain quiet when everything within you yearns to defend, prove, or justify. That's emotional maturity. That's power. Folks believe silence is weakness. But if you don't say anything, you've lost. But it is just the opposite. Silence is a sign that you have mastered the skill of having peace over ego, clarity over chaos, wisdom over reaction. You've come to understand that not every comment needs a response, not every move requires a reaction, and not every person needs an explanation. Tony Robbins is known to say, where focus goes, whenever you respond to drama, criticism, or negativity all the time, you're fueling it. When you stay silent, though, you starve it. You no longer give your power away to things that don't deserve it. In that space, that silence, you take it back. You begin hearing your own voice again. You begin listening to your intuition rather than the noise around you. Consider this. How many times did you exhaust yourself attempting to clarify your motives to someone who was determined to misunderstand you? How many times did you burn energy debating someone who didn't care about truth, only about being right? Silence guards your peace from wars not worth fighting, because strength does not prove itself with words, proves itself through restraint. When you remain quiet, you permit others to expose themselves. The individuals who love you will seek clarity. The ones who don't will disappear. Silence makes relationships clear quicker than argument ever could. It distinguishes between those who respect your energy and those who just wanted to suck it out of you. That's a gift. Once you know who's who, then you can move in accordance. But silence is not only a response, it is also a declaration. It declares, past the requirement to justify myself. It declares, I'm okay with who I am. It declares, energy is more valuable than to be used on noise. You don't not care. You simply care more about your peace than about being right. And that distinction makes all the difference. There is also profound beauty in quiet growth. When you cease to proclaim every step you take and begin to operate in seclusion, your outcomes begin speaking for themselves. No one needs to know your intentions when they can observe your progress. Quiet transformation is strong because it baffles the world. They have no idea what you're doing. You're too busy constructing something tangible to elaborate. And sometimes silence isn't about other people at all. It's about you. It's about stepping back and listening to what your soul is whispering to you. When you stop filling every second with noise, you make space for reflection, healing, and clarity. You begin to realize that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. So when folks are trying to rile you up, when the world is being too much and there's too much noise, recall this. Your silence can be your loudest whisper. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to validate your half of the story. You don't have to talk to be heard. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing, because silence is not weakness. It's self-discipline. It's self-assurance. It's intelligence. And when you learn to get it, you realize peace is not being able to have the last word. It's not needing to. When you finally get to the point of loving yourself, truly, deeply, unconditionally, everything shifts. relationships shift, your confidence shifts, your energy shifts. Because self love isn't a cliche or a motivational quote, it's the beginning of everything. It's the quiet understanding that no matter who shows up and who leaves, no matter what you lose and what you gain, you'll still have you. And that's sufficient. See, because for the majority of us, we've spent years seeking love from others' eyes, begged for it in validation, attention, and approval, attempted to earn it by being perfect, by being agreeable, by being everything to everyone. Let me tell you the truth, love that you have to earn will never feel safe because it's conditional, and conditional love keeps you chasing. Tony Robbins used to say, the most powerful drive in the human personality is the need to be consistent with how we think about ourselves. So if you feel in your heart you're not worthy, continue to bring into your life people and circumstances that will validate that feeling for you. But when you commit today that you are worthy of love, respect, and peace exactly as you are, your whole world starts changing. You cease to pursue love and begin to attract it. You cease to beg to be noticed and begin to shine naturally. Because people don't love you for what you do. They love you for who you are. And you can't tap into that until you love yourself first. Self-love is not arrogance. It's not having the belief that you're superior to everyone else. It's understanding that you don't have to compete because your value is not in competition. It's having boundaries, not walls. It's saying, I love you. I love me too. It's knowing that sometimes peace means letting go, not because you're callous, because you love yourself enough not to stay where you're constantly disrespected. When you love yourself, you no longer tolerate half effort. You no longer apologize for deserving minimum respect. You no longer glamorize inconsistency because self-love shows you how to treat yourself. That sets the example for how others must treat you. It's a ripple effect. The energy you provide yourself becomes the norm for how the world receives you. You walk differently. You talk differently. You begin not to apologize for taking up space in the world. You do not shrink your precious spirit to fit rooms that were built for less. You do not settle for love that eats at your soul. You cease asking, why don't they love me the way I love them? And begin to understand, perhaps I was meant to love me that way first. And that's the magic. When you begin to love yourself, you are complete. You no longer enter relationships with some emptiness that you need another person to fill. You enter the relationship full abounding, needing to give rather than to take. When love is pure, because it's not based on need, it's based on abundance. When you love yourself, better comes toward you, better people, better opportunities, better vibration. Because love is a mirror, you treat yourself exactly how life will treat you. You begin to see that whatever drained you before now falls below your frequency. You've outgrown the part of you that pleaded for love. You've become the part that expresses love. And that's when the transformation occurs. The one everyone will comment on, but can't quite put their finger on. You radiate differently. You talk with more peace. You walk with more intention. You cease running and begin choosing. You begin to walk away from what no longer benefits you without resentment. You realize finally that losing people who will not value you isn't a loss, it's alignment. So when you no longer care if someone else loves you and you begin to love yourself instead, when the magic happens, that's when you reclaim your power. Because the moment you fall in love with who you are, not the mask, not the version trying to people please, but your raw, real, perfect self, the world can't help but follow. Because self-love isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of every beautiful thing that's meant for you.